The wind carried dust, that dry, choking kind that sifts into every crease of skin, every fold of leather, every breath you take. It whirled across the empty plains like a ghost. No birds, no rustle of herds, just wind and memory. Years earlier, this land had thundered with life. Now, it was quiet. Too quiet. It was the summer of 1883, and a group of Kiowa and Comanche scouts sat motionless atop a rise in what is now the Texas Panhandle. Below them lay the high plains, stretching to the horizon in all directions. Sagebrush, rock, the shimmer of heat, and not a single buffalo. One of the scouts shaded his eyes and muttered something low in Comanche. They'd been searching for 2 days, riding along dry creek beds, over grassy ridges, past old wallows that once churned with hooves, places where bones still lay bleaching in the sun. Once, this same land would have been black with bison. You could smell them before you saw them, sweet and sour, alive. You could feel the earth move when they ran. You didn't have to find them. They found you. But now, nothing. Nothing except the empty. They didn't know it yet, but this would be the last buffalo hunt of the southern plains, the final act in a centuries-old ritual. A farewell to the animal that had fed them, clothed them, housed them, and a quiet death knell for a way of life that would never return. Before the railroad tracks, before barbed wire, before treaties and reservations, there was the buffalo. The American bison wasn't just a creature of the plains, it was the plains. Numbering in the tens of millions, they moved like rivers, migrating north and south with the seasons, shaping the land as they went. Grass grew in their wake. Predators followed their path. Native cultures evolved around their rhythm. They were central to the spiritual and material world of dozens of indigenous nations. The Lakota, Cheyenne, Arapaho, Comanche, Kiowa, Blackfoot, and many more, each had their own stories, ceremonies, and lifeways built around the buffalo. From birth to death, every part of the animal was used. Meat for food, hides for shelter and clothing, sinew for bowstrings, horns for tools, dung for fuel, bones for weapons and ceremony. They were a gift from the Creator, and they were sacred. No one could imagine the plains without them, until they were gone. In the early 1800s, the buffalo population is estimated to have been somewhere between 30 and 60 million. By 1884, fewer than 500 were left in the wild. The destruction was not accidental. It wasn't ecological drift or simple overhunting. It was policy, a strategy, designed and executed. A war of extermination dressed up as commerce. The first white traders and settlers to see the bison were stunned by their number. Travelers described herds stretching for miles, animals moving in a single wave across the land. It seemed impossible they could ever be reduced. Indestructible, eternal. But by the 1830s, hide hunters began to move west, and when the Civil War ended, they came in waves, men with long rifles and wagons, hunting for industry, not sustenance. Trains stopped so passengers could shoot from the windows. Eastern factories demanded hides and tongues. Bones were collected by the ton and sold as fertilizer. Mountains of skulls were photographed like trophies. In the 1870s alone, over 10 million bison were slaughtered, and behind the rifles stood the government. Military commanders knew that native resistance could never be fully subdued as long as the tribes had access to the buffalo. So they encouraged the killing, not of warriors, but of animals. General Philip Sheridan, commander of U.S. forces in the West, famously said, "Let them kill, skin, and sell until the buffalo is exterminated, as it is the only way to bring lasting peace and allow civilization to advance." Peace in this case meant domination. Civilization meant displacement. And the buffalo became a casualty in a war not declared, but waged all the same. By 1883, the southern herd, once one of the largest concentrations of bison on the continent, was nearly extinct. That summer, a group of Comanche, Kiowa, and Cheyenne families gathered one last time near the Palo Duro Canyon. They brought their sons, their elders, their stories. They had no illusions. The hunt was not for sustenance anymore, not for survival. It was for memory, to pass on what a hunt meant. How to move in silence, how to watch the wind, how to approach from the side, how to thank the animal for its life. It was a lesson to be preserved in motion. Even if the herds were gone, the knowledge had to survive. They found a small group, maybe 200 head, near the banks of the Canadian River. They waited 2 days, let the moon cycle, held council, fasted. Then before dawn, they painted their faces, blessed their horses, and rode. The dust rose like smoke from the hooves. It was not the roaring thunder of old hunts, but it was still powerful, still sacred. They moved in a coordinated arc, elders directing from behind, younger men driving the animals into a funnel toward a steep ravine. Shots cracked, arrows flew. Some riders used old lances, passed down for generations. It was over in under an hour. They killed 60 head, maybe more. They sang as they butchered, divided meat by family, cut hides for winter robes, laid out bones with respect. No photographs were taken. No newsmen came. But for those present, it mattered more than any battlefield. It was the last ride, for them, for the buffalo, for the old ways. In the years that followed, the absence grew louder than the memory. With no buffalo, tribes became reliant on government-issued rations, flour, salt pork, coffee, hardtack, food unfamiliar to the stomach and unfit for the soul. Hunger spread. Starvation took root. Diseases followed. Children grew up knowing stories of buffalo but never seeing one. The sacred hunts were reduced to songs. The dances became protest, and the reservations became prisons of memory. A few men tried to change it. In 1905, conservationists, including Theodore Roosevelt and William Hornaday, began a movement to protect the remaining bison. They established herds in Yellowstone, Wind Cave, and private ranches. But they were different herds, fenced, managed, commodified, not wild, not free. Today, around 500,000 bison live in North America, but only a tiny fraction are genetically pure, and fewer still roam without human control. The old herds, the ones that moved like weather, are gone forever. There is one surviving photo, taken not of the last hunt, but of its aftermath. A pile of buffalo skulls, 20 feet high, stacked for shipment to a fertilizer plant. The men in the photo are smiling. The ground beneath them no longer moves. The last buffalo hunt is not just a story of extinction. It's the story of what happens when a people are separated from the land they know, the animals they depend on, the identity they carry in their bones. But it's also a story of endurance. Because the people survived, the stories survived, and in some places, the buffalo are returning. They run again on the plains of Montana, in Oklahoma, in Alberta, in protected lands and tribal rewilding projects. Not in the millions, not yet. But they run, and when they do, if you're quiet enough, you can still hear it. That old thunder, rolling in the distance. Thank you for listening to Deserted Trails. Subscribe for more forgotten stories from the old frontier.